Hey guys, what's up? So in this video, I'm going to talk about these two types, ENTP and also ISFJ. And I decide for this video, I'm going to wear a shirt that kind of reminds me of these two types. This cat runs the world kind of shirt. It's kind of a shirt that kind of reminds me of the Alpha Quadrant. So the Alpha Quadrant are types including the INTP, ENTP, ISFJ, ESFJ. But for some reason, out of those types, this kind of shirt kind of reminds me of ISFJ, ENTP, kind of a goofy, lighthearted kind of quality. It's still something an INFP like myself would wear, but I kind of associate this with these two types. So what inspired this video is that I think about a million years ago, I was talking with an ISFJ, and we were talking about how certain types have certain kind of visual features. So this is basically, we were talking about visual identification, and then he showed me some pictures in which he looked like an ENTP. So he's an ISFJ, but there's certain pictures in which his face looks like an ENTP. And this is a very kind of curious phenomenon. Something that actually does happen a lot is that people at times look like they're opposite type. And sometimes you can even mistype people as their opposite type because they all share the same cognitive functions. So I want to talk about these two types, what I find to be kind of similar about them. The first thing is that these two types, as I said, are kind of among the less serious types, belonging to the Alpha Quadrant, which is kind of a light-hearted quadrant of people. And not only are they Alpha Quadrant, they're both irrational types, meaning they start off with a function that's not thinking or feeling. They start off with intuiting or sensing. So in a way, you can say like INTPs and ESFJs are more serious than them. But overall, all these types are not that serious, especially these two types, ENTP, ISFJ. So one thing is that ENTP is a type that appears most like a child. So into adulthood, they still have like this childlike mindset. You could say, oh, ENFPs are like that or whatever type is like that. But no, I think ENTPs out of all types, they have the most childlike mindset going into adulthood. And ISFJs, if you really look at them more closely, they're kind of the same. Out of all types, if you look at all types and you look at an ISFJ, that is a type you can't really, when you look at them, it's like there's something I can't really take seriously about this person. So ISFJs are actually like really, really goofy people. So ENTPs, goofy too. So they're similar in that regards. Some ENTPs can look kind of more serious at the outset, but overall they have like, there's a certain strong component of their personality which is goofy. Okay, so the stereotype of ISFJ is kind of like a jolly old fat man who's kind of angry inside. Except, ISFJs are not necessarily chubby people, though because they lead with introvert sensing, if they get really into snacking and food, that could be the case. But anyway, okay, kind of like the jolly old fat man, and this kind of applies a bit more to the extrovert feeling subtype of the ISFJ. They could kind of have rounded features to their face as well. Another thing about ISFJ, they can either be kind of goofy, or a lot of them, I think especially the SI subtype, the introvert sensing subtype, kind of carries themselves with an elegance. So if you look at their every single motion, there's something like very like elegant about it. All the words that come out of their mouth, the introvert sensing subtype, it's like elegance. It just smooth. It works, and it could just be any kind of minor movement they're doing. Like it'd be like sweeping the floor. If you watch them sweep the floor, there's some like really beautiful elegance to how they do that. Um, and when I say ENTP kind of like childlike, I don't necessarily mean like a rambunctious child that's like going crazy. Um, a lot of ENTPs could be kind of more subdued, like more still, but like they either appear like a rambunctious child or like a soft and sweet child. So those are the two type of ENTPs that I kind of uh, look at, and so appearing very childlike and they get like really excited about ideas and new novelties, and they're like, oh, look at this new idea, and they're like sitting around, and they're also rambling about these ideas without any that don't have any immediate practical application. So when you see that, it kind of makes you think, how do these people survive? They're like children. They're like rambling about all these nonsense ideas, and the thing is, they have extrovert thinking as a demonstrative function. So they value extrovert intuition, they value introvert thinking, but extrovert thinking is actually a very strong function that they have that's in the background, by the way. And what this function does is that they actually are pretty tenacious, pragmatic problem solvers, especially in times of emergency. When time really calls for it, they can really do some very practical problem solving. So you get I know there's an ENTP, and he basically he just went like ambling around Europe on his own, and he'll find places to sleep, like he would sleep in a cemetery or something like that, but like he'll find some really quick way to survive. So that's what that is. So it's an unvalued function that's very strong, that's helping them survive, and they're pretty good at it. So let's see. Okay, so so both ISFJs and ENTPs, they kind of like this kind of dumb and ridiculous kind of silliness. So I kind of, when I said that ENTP is like a child, like it could be kind of easy to make them laugh. Like you could tell a really dumb joke, and an ENTP will start laughing at that. And ISFJs are kind of similar, somewhat in that regards too. Um, and so ENTPs, ISFJs are caregivers. ENTPs are kind of they're this is called romance styles in sociology. They come up with really stupid names, but caregiver and for ENTP is infantile. But all infantile types kind of have these caregiver traits, and all caregiver types kind of have these kind of childlike traits. So you could kind of see these two types kind of switch back and forth between these two kind of aspects. The childlike aspect of ISFJ, I think, is pretty clear when you really look at them. You get to kind of see introvert sensing in ENTPs, also ENFPs as well, in kind of experimenting with mixing their own chemical ingredients to make maybe like different kind of perfumes or like drugs or something. I don't know what they're up to. I want to kind of comment on the elegance again. So remember when I talked about the ISFJ, like when they're sweeping the floor, they do it elegantly. I don't mean to be offensive. I know that's also an ISFJ stereotype, is that they'll be sweeping the floor and cleaning the dishes. But whenever they're sweeping the floor, I mean, the best people to like visually look at in terms of aesthetics when it comes to sweeping the floor and picking up the plates, ISFJs just do it with like a certain kind of elegance. I'm mainly talking about the SI subtype, and the FE subtype is kind of more goofy. So the thing about elegance, okay, ISFJ has the elegance and the goofiness. So I think ISFJs is not. It's not only how they are dressed. ISFJs SI subtype dresses very elegantly. It's like they kind of like blend in with the environment, and they make it like part of them in a very aesthetically pleasing, elegant kind of way. Like whenever they decide to take a photo of themselves in some sort of background, and So I kind of like imagine like an ISFJ kind of working at part time in a charming cafe that is very slow paced and not very crowded. So I think those are kind of types of environments that they like. So about the elegance again. So ENTP, a common mischaracterization is that they lack elegance. So they can be kind of clumsy or sloppy in their mannerisms, but when it comes to their dress, a lot of ENTPs are actually really well dressed. And something I noticed, okay, there's a bunch that they don't dress up, but the ones that who choose to dress up, they're probably one of the best dressers among the MBTI types. It's like very put together. They know how to create their even very put together, and they know how to create their very own unique style as well. If you look at the other MBTI dresser types, ESFP, their colors are a bit disjointed. ENFJs are kind of a bit too flashy, and you could pick a very similar type like ENFP. ENFPs, they're kind of a bit too theatrical, but like ENTPs, like they just like got it right. It all goes together, but it's also unique at the same time. They really know how to dress. So that in that regards, they're kind of similar to ISFJs. And the final similarity that I want to talk about is that, which I find to be true, is that ENTPs and ISFJs really suck at typing themselves. So one thing I already regret making this video because no like real ENTPs or ISFJs are gonna see this video because they won't think that they're ENTPs or ISFJs. So out of all the MBTI types, these two really suck at typing themselves. They can know the MBTI, they can know socioeconomics very well, and like they know all the technicalities. They know perhaps how to type other people, but they're like they can't type themselves. Now, I'll give you an example. Like there's a famous Myers-Briggs person, Myers-Briggs theorist, Dr. John Beebe. For a very long time, he thought he's an INTP, but he's really an ENTP. This kind of trait kind of manifests differently between the two types. So ENTPs, they type themselves wrong straight off the bat. So they always think I am INFJ or something like that. The only letter they could ever get right is N. Like they could type as any kind of like type. They could type as anything. The only thing they get right is N. And then after they mistype themselves, they study more and more about socioeconomics, MBTI, and they develop a very impressive knowledge about it, and they still don't know what their type is. ISFJs are a bit different. Like ISFJs start off knowing what their type is, and then they study a whole bunch of socioeconomics, MBTI, and then they start doubting what their true type is, and then they think that there's something else that they're not. So these are the similarities that I see. Okay, that's it.